Hello everyone and welcome back. A big thank you to everybody who has subscribed. If you have not subscribed, please do so that you will get a notification each time I upload a new video. In today's video, we are going to look at the political life of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who was Kenya's second president. Daniel Arap Moi was born on the 2nd of September 1924 into the Tugen subgroup of the Kalenjin people in the Kenyan Rift Valley. Moi went to school at the African Inland Mission School, then trained as a teacher at the Tambach Teachers Training College. Moi worked as a teacher until 1955 when he entered politics and was elected a member of the Legislative Council for Rift Valley. As Kenya's independence approached, Moi was part of the delegation that travelled to London for the Lancaster House conferences, where Kenya's first post-independence constitution was drafted. In 1960, Moi and Ronald Ngala founded the Kenya African Democratic Union as an alternative to the Kenya African National Union that was led by Jomo Kenyatta. The Kenya African Democratic Union pressed for a federalist constitution, while KANU was in favor of a centralized government. After Kenya's independence in 1963, Kenyatta convinced Moi that KADU and KANU should merge to complete the process of decolonization, and in 1964, KADU was dissolved and joined KANU. At that point, the only challenge to KANU's dominance came from the Kenya People's Union that started in 1966. The Kenya People's Union was banned in 1969, and Kenya became a one-party state that was dominated by the Kikuyu-Luo alliance. Kenyatta secured the support of Moi's Kalenjin tribe when he promoted him to Minister for Home Affairs in 1964 and then to Vice President in 1967. Being a member of a minority tribe, Moi was accepted as a compromise for the major tribes. Moi was elected to the Kenyan Parliament in 1963 from Baringo North. From 1966 until his retirement in 2002, Moi served as the Member of Parliament for Baringo Central in addition to his various other offices. Moi faced opposition from the Kikuyu elite known as the Kiambu Mafia, who wanted a Kikuyu to become president after Jomo Kenyatta. As a result of this, there was an attempt by the Constitutional Drafting Group to change the constitution in order to prevent the vice president automatically assuming power in the event of the president's death. Many senior Kikuyu politicians, including Mwai Kibaki and Charles Njonjo, and even Kenyatta himself, opposed such a change to the order of a succession. This was because they feared it might lead to political instability if Kenyatta died, considering Kenyatta's advanced age. Therefore, Moi's position as successor to Kenyatta was safeguarded. Jomo Kenyatta died on 22nd August 1978. Moi became acting president. According to the Kenyan Constitution, a special presidential election for the balance of Kenyatta's term should have been held on 8th November, 90 days later. But a cabinet meeting decided that no one else was interested in running for president, and various politicians started campaigning across the country for Moi to be declared president. As a result of the walkover electoral process, Moi was sworn in as the second president of Kenya on the 14th of October 1978. In the beginning, Moi was popular and had widespread support all over the country. Unlike Jomo Kenyatta's style of government behind closed doors, Moi toured the country and came into contact with people everywhere. However, political realities dictated that he would continue with the system of government that Kenyatta had created. This included the nearly dictatorial powers that were vested in his office. Despite his popularity, Moi was still unable to fully consolidate his power. Anti-communism was an important theme of Moi's government. Speaking on the new president's behalf, the vice president, Mwai Kibaki, blatantly stated that there was no room for communists in Kenya. On 1st August 1982, there was an attempted coup d'etat to oust President Moi. This revolt was quickly suppressed by military and police forces. It is believed that there may have been 2 or 3 independent groups trying to seize power at the same time for different reasons, but the most serious one was led by prominent Kikuyu politicians and members of the police and armed forces. Moi took this opportunity to dismiss political opponents and consolidate his power. He reduced the influence of Kenyatta's men in the cabinet through a long-running judicial inquiry that resulted in the identification of key Kenyatta men as traitors. Moi pardoned them, but not before establishing their traitor status in the public view. The main conspirators in the coup were sentenced to death, and this marked the last judicial executions in Kenya. Moi appointed his supporters to key positions and changed the constitution to formally make KANU the only legally permitted party in the country. Kenya's academics and other intelligentsia did not accept this, and educational institutions across the country became the site of movements that sought to introduce democratic reforms. However, Kenyan secret police infiltrated these groups and many members moved into exile. Marxism could no longer be taught in Kenyan universities. The remaining opposition at home went underground. In the late 80s, Moi's regime faced the end of the Cold War, as well as a national economy stagnation because of rising oil prices and falling prices for agricultural commodities. Western countries also became more hostile to the KANU regime. There was also a change of policy from the time of the Cold War, when Kenya had been viewed as an important regional stabilizer in preventing the spread of Soviet influence beyond Ethiopia, Somalia, and Tanzania. During that time, Kenya received much foreign aid and the country was accepted as a stable regime with Moi and KANU family in charge. Kenya's Western allies overlooked the increasing political repression that included the use of torture at the infamous Nyayo House torture chambers. With the fall of the Soviet Union and a lessening need to counter socialist influence in the region, Western policymakers changed their policy towards Moi and began looking at him as a despotic ruler. Foreign aid was withheld pending compliance with economic and political reforms. The restoration of a multi-party system was one of the key conditions imposed on Moi's regime. KANU was against the reintroduction of a multi-party system. Moi announced the intention of repealing Section 2A of the Constitution and lifted the ban on opposition parties at a Kanu conference in December 1991. There was a fierce debate and many delegates opposed the reintroduction of a multi-party system, but the conference passed the motion unanimously. Even with the presence of opposition parties, Moi and Kanu won the first multi-party elections in 1992 and 1997. Both elections were marred by political violence. Moi exploited Kenya's mix of ethnic tensions in both contests, gaining popularity in both elections by mixing or picking up votes across the country. Due to the absence of an effective and organized opposition, Moi had no difficulty winning. Let us now have a look at some of the criticisms and allegations that have been leveled against President Moi's rule. Moi's rule was marred with corruption that literally collapsed the Kenyan economy. By the time his 24-year reign came to an end, Kenya's economic growth was at its knees. Moi's government was so corrupt that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank stopped lending to Kenya. Non-governmental organizations like Amnesty International and a special investigation by the United Nations were published, which indicated that human rights abuses were prevalent in Kenya under the Moi regime. The biggest single scandal was first made public in 1992, known as the Goldenberg Affair, and centered on the theft of £400 million of public money that was paid as state subsidies to a company called Goldenberg International to promote fictitious exports of Kenyan gold and diamonds. Moi was constitutionally barred from running in the 2002 presidential elections. Mwai Kibaki was then elected president of Kenya in December 2002. Moi handed over power to Mwai Kibaki, and on July 2007, Mwai Kibaki appointed Moi as a special peace envoy to Sudan. Daniel Arap Moi was married to Lena Moi, but they separated in 1974 and together they had 8 children. Daniel Arap Moi died on the 4th of February 2020 at the age of 95. A state funeral service was conducted at the Nyayo National Stadium on the 11th of February 2020 before the burial in his Kabarak home in Nakuru County. He was buried at his Kabarak home on 12th February 2020, complete with military honors, which included a 19-gun salute followed by a missing man formation flyby. His grave is next to his former wife, Lena Bomet. This brings us to the end of this video, in which we have had a look at the political life of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who was a Kenyan politician and served as the second president of the Republic of Kenya from 1978 to 2002. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. In the next video, we are going to look at the political life of Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta. Bye for now.